Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to our Let's Play series as playing Strategic Command World War II, World at War. We are playing as the Axis. It is February of 1946. We are late into the war. The Western Allies have mostly fallen. France has fallen. All of the 1940 conquests have all fallen. But then in addition to that, Russia has fallen for the Germans. And so that means the Germans have moved their forces west and are now on the coast of France after throwing back D-Day and are preparing for a second invasion of England. A earlier sort of somewhat half-baked invasion went off in late 1945 and failed, and we are waiting for the spring of 1946 so we can launch an invasion when the weather turns and we can bring our large air armada in France to bear. Some new technological developments giving Germany level 2 long-range aircraft have come about, which also means that we can more effectively bring our power to bear over the Allies in England. In addition to that, the invasion of Italy was thrown back. Germany is advancing across the northern coast of North Africa, retaking much of the territory that was lost in the Allied counteroffensive of 1943. Germany is also driving deep into Africa, just having taken Khartoum. Sudan should fall next turn, and then driving toward Ethiopia, Massawa, and the other Eastern African colonial holdings. In addition to that, India has just fallen, and Germany's now struggling to get its troops out of India because the way the game mechanic works, German units in Japanese territory don't get supply. So this will probably take like 4 or 5 turns to get these guys out because they're going to have zero supply. But hopefully once they're out, then we can redeploy them elsewhere. In addition to that, so Japan, as you can guess, as I've just said, has successfully taken over India. They've also successfully conquered China, and Japan also got a chunk of Russia. So I split Russia kind of down the middle so that Japan got the eastern holdings. Japan is now, Mongolia would be an interesting target, but they're neutral right now. That's a giant chunk of land, though. Anyway, I digress. Japan is in the process of beginning preparations for large-scale invasion of Australia. The Americans sent a large invasion fleet, not an invasion fleet, but a large naval fleet to Japan, twice actually, and we destroyed it off the coast of Japan. It seems like they're continuing to send those troops, so I've actually kind of scattered my navy out this direction to the east in an effort to intercept any future invasion plans. While we're doing that, we've also started to shift some of our carriers. Oh, shit, this guy's going to get hit by subs hard. He might get sunk. We might lose the Soryu next turn to these American subs if they attack it. But meanwhile, we've moved a couple of other carriers here. We're starting to shift some troops in the direction of Australia. You can see here we've got the Indo-China expedition, the Tokyo Botai Army, so a couple of army units there. I think I've got 1 or 2 other transports. Yeah, we've got one here, Itagachi, another headquarters unit, and the Hiroshima Botai Army. I think I might have already said that. We also have, no, I didn't already say that. Okay, so we've got all those units that are moving toward Australia. We've already invaded northern Australia, and we got our first headquarters units ashore now. So we're going to start moving these guys to the east and hopefully begin the invasion of northern Australia. With that being said, Australia has just raised a bunch of Home Guard units, so it's likely that they're going to be a tough nut to crack. Additionally, we have a couple of naval units off the east coast of Australia, but they are kind of isolated, so if the Americans move any sort of naval assets against us there, they're probably going to get destroyed. But they're kind of a screening force there to help prevent large-scale reinforcements of Australia. And that's the situation. We only have about another year to win. The game ends in the spring of 1947. So we've already kind of won, I'm assuming, some level of victory. But to win a major victory, I think we need to take London and Australia. I believe that's the rules in the game. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. We've already issued our orders for this turn. So we'll go ahead and jump in and let the Allies resolve their turn. And then we'll move toward, I guess, toward March of 1946. The Axis have liberated Tunis. Nepal has surrendered to Japan. Gives us another chunk of money. Sudan surrenders. Germany plunders money from Sudan. As I've said, Norwegian partisans are operating here, doing some damage to Norwegian industry. We still haven't taken Crete, interestingly enough. Allied raiders are disrupting Japanese convoys. And the Axis are making lots and lots of money. Unfortunately, to really use that money to build a large navy, I don't really have enough time because the number of turns it's going to take to build anything exceed the number of turns that are left in the game. So there's that. Okay. So this game, as if you've followed this series at all, this game has two. It's kind of an I go you go sort of system. So every turn takes place 2 turns apart from the other turn, or 2 weeks apart from the other turn. So I go, then 2 weeks pass. The allies go, then 2 weeks pass. Then I go again. So basically, you move about once a month. You can see here the allies have a ton of destroyers in the channel. They're moving in to destroy this motor torpedo boat of ours. But they... Oh, shit. That sub is a goner. Or that carrier is a goner. But you can see... Yeah, fuck. That's such a waste. But you can see, obviously, that the allies have a huge number of destroyers operating in the channel, which will pose a problem for any cross-channel invasion by the Axis. Meanwhile, the Americans have a ton of submarines. That seems to be the bulk of what's left of their fleet. Ew. The Canadian destroyers came in there and did some damage. Apparently, British artillery is firing at our motor torpedo boats. Good luck with that. There's a British unit here in northern Norway, not really doing anything other than eating up a little bit of our industry points by holding Narvik. Meanwhile, our battleship made contact with another enemy transport here off the coast of Australia, nearly destroyed it. Presumably this is more American troops. We've destroyed quite a few American units that seem to be moving toward Australia, so I'm definitely happy with that result. Meanwhile, oh shit. Our troops in northern Australia are getting hit hard by large numbers of enemy troops. Actually, they're probably cut off over here. I don't think they have very good supply either. Looks like, I think these are American Special Forces, and these guys are American infantry, and then we've also got some Australian infantry. This looks like an army, this is a corps, and this is just a Special Forces unit. Technically, the SNLF forces are Special Forces as well. I think they're equivalent to the Japanese Marines. I don't know if these are U.S. Marines or U.S. Special Forces. I'm not sure how the game classifies that. The game is thinking. Okay, now they're pulling all those naval forces that they just, you know, charged into the channel back. Or really, our only real hope in a cross-channel invasion is that our air units can destroy a couple of enemy units along the coast, enough for us to take a port, and then our army can move in and... U.S. Army suffering attrition in Australia? And then once those units are destroyed along the coast, we can move our troops in to take those areas, and those areas would then also have to have a port so we could resupply ourselves. We'd also need to get a headquarter unit in. We'd probably need to get at least 2 hexes deep into England. And even then, that's a dicey affair because they're going to counterattack heavily. So it's really why we need to have good weather so we can really bring our air power to bear. But the Americans have crazy strong air power too, so that's the other factor there. Meanwhile, Japan just developed some tanks. Did I see a rising of partisans in China? No? I don't see any enemy troops there. Okay. Meanwhile, let's get these German... Oh, these guys actually have supply. Nice. Let's get them back to Germany. Ooh, we can transport them. Okay. Where do we want to go with them? So it does look those are... I'm guessing the British don't have much... Let's see here. Do we have any ports? We do have the Port of Sudan. Okay, so we're going to move into the Port of Sudan, offload them right there, and just like that, they're into Africa. Straight from India to Africa. That's nice. All right, so that actually lets us get the bulk of the German troops out of there. These guys are cut off, so these remaining elements of British troops here in India, near the city, fall. bomb from way back here? Doesn't look like we have the range. Yeah, not quite enough range there. We can hit them this way with these strategic bombers and finish those guys off. All right. So the remaining British troops in India have all been destroyed. So that's a success. I don't think partisans are a thing for us to worry about. I don't think in India, because the partisans that do exist are actually anti-British, not anti-Japanese. We'll take this turn to reinforce our troops. Or at least the ones we can. And then we'll probably need to get some of these guys moving to other theaters now. Question is, what do we do with all these Japanese troops? I mean, obviously the invasion of Australia won't be easy, so maybe that's as simple as that. Fireslayer 100, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome to the channel. J Street, I wouldn't compare this very much to Civ, to be honest. It's a very different type of a game. It's more like Panzer General, but on a strategic level. Alright, so these guys need to reinforce too. These guys will upgrade their mobility. Okay. Reinforce the troops here, get these guys up to full strength. Spending the bulk of our money for Japan for the first time in quite some time, actually. Let's move these guys. Shit, they can't move that way. Yeah, so I think that's gonna mostly do it for these troops over here. Before we get back to let's swing down. I guess we're on Japan anyway, so I might as well. All right, we're going to finish off this American 4th Army. Okay. Some patrols off that way. Meanwhile, these guys... I mean, our supply situation isn't very good, but actually neither is the Allied supply situation all that good. The Australians, I don't know if they have headquarters here in Australia. Are there partisans we have to worry about? Doesn't look like it. So move him to guard the flank over here. This guy will move out this way. Zoom out here. Can these guys... I'd really like to get these guys to Australia this turn. But they'd be moved adjacent to another enemy sub, which wouldn't be ideal. I was hoping at least to make the enemy sub dive. Can we move to another port in this vicinity? Is there one off? There is one off Legepsi, but we can't reach. What I don't know is I don't know where they dove to, so I don't know if we can actually get them out of there. The safer route would be to move this way, but that's also the slower route. Oh, I forgot we had these troops over here. Okay. Would it make sense to move behind them? trying to take the port of Cairns behind the Australians, but that didn't quite work. Okay. All right. Do I do it? Do I take a risk? I've lost quite a few units at sea. Whoa, zoomed out way too far. Yeah, we'll do it. We made it! The army made it to Australia. Alright, that army did anyway. So we're basically doing the equivalent of a forced march for our troops to get them there more quickly. I think it hurts morale, but I'm not 100% sure on that. In any event, we're flooding northern Australia with troops. We are going to have to go at the Australians in a bit of a long march around... a long march around Australia to get to the capital, or straight through the center of Australia. That's going to take some time. Alright, so I got more troops there. Okay. Long-range amphibious. That's good. We need to upgrade these guys, right? Or reinforce these aircraft to max strength. We're going to lose a bunch of experience, but we really do need to do that. Alright, so... move these carriers which have repaired south. I don't like the idea of leaving these destroyers out or these cruisers out here all by themselves. So we are going to fall back. What? Enemy contact. Fucking A. My ships have shitty anti-submarine warfare too. More American submarines! There's just so many goddamn subs. Alright. Pull these guys back. So we pulled most of our surface assets back. I'm going to send some of these guys south toward the Bismarck Archipelago, and then I think I've got a sub out here doing some recon. See if it can check out what's in Hawaii. Doesn't look like a lot. I don't see any warships there in Pearl, which is interesting. I'd be curious if they left Hawaii somewhat empty. I don't think I can do two major amphibious operations at the same time. Can we operate these guys? Yes, we can. Naval flotilla. They're not as good against ground targets. Still might not be a bad idea to send them to Australia. So we'll do that. Got to keep some of these units in place in their garrison locations to prevent the enemy from just sneaking in behind us. These guys will go this way. I just don't know if I can land these guys, so I'll not do that. Gepsy, stay in port there. We'll see how far these long-range transports can make it next turn. Are there partisans in Shanghai? There are. We can't operate these guys anywhere useful. So we're not going to do that. Our paratroopers moving down to Australia. Yeah, we actually don't need the amphibious assault craft for every one of those operations. We can use transports now that we have a port. So that's good to think about. We probably want to take Cylon. But I think that probably about does it for the Japanese. They don't even have any real money left for doing anything else. So I think that pretty much concludes our turn as Japan. Most of the other troops in place are there guarding our garrison units. So that should do it for Japan. Moving on to Germany, the drive into Africa. We want to move on Massawa, if that's how you pronounce it. And these guys can move on Addis, or however you pronounce that. So we're going to move mechanized troops on Massawa and then also on Ethiopia. Hopefully we can take both quickly in the next turn or two. Meanwhile, in North Africa, we've taken Tunis. So we're now moving on Algiers. And we got it. We got the capital of Algiers. And we destroyed this American air unit here in Algiers. Very good. So move that guy to Tunis. Kind of curious, where did they operate all their troops away? Did they completely abandon North Africa? Where are they going? Move forward to Tripoli to guard the supply line. Malta would be an interesting target. Another interesting target could be Crete for an amphibious landing. But Algiers has been liberated. So moving on. We're trying to kick the Americans out of North Africa. I don't know if they moved anything into the desert. If they do, they probably will suffer attrition damage. Meanwhile, the channel is socked in with rain and fog. No jump tonight. Band of Brothers. Alright, I guess we'll just hit him. I don't think we can actually bomb anything over here because of the rain. Ooh, but wait a minute. Ah, we can't hit them? Is it raining here? These guys are in storm, aren't they? Yeah. Tuh. Yes, J Street. Well, no, that would be bad. We don't want the Axis to win. Oh wait, we've got these British destroyers we can attack over here. And our maritime bombers get to bomb twice. So at least we got a Canadian destroyer there. Rip to the Canadians. Okay. Can my destroyers not, or my subs can't do anything against them, can they? Well, maybe we can pull some of their navy out of the channel if we put subs along their supply lines. Whoa! Enemy contact! Aha. Take that, Canadian tanks! Alright, put this guy back along the supply line. Set mode to hunt. And the first Canadian tank army is destroyed! Alright. So we are all over this one convoy route, but we haven't been able to get the rest of the subs out further to sea. These guys already moved. Pull that guy back to port. Can we move this guy to The Hague? We can. All right. So probably not quite ready for another amphibious landing. Not another, but not ready for an amphibious landing. Start to move some of these guys into transports, though. These guys are already ready to jump. We need some headquarters units, too. The main thing I'm worried about is that they bomb our guys in port for some of these units. Looks like there's an American destroyer up here. Can't quite reach it. Do I want to risk putting Van Bach on transports? I don't think I do. Okay, so we've got a decent force on board transports. It's just a matter of waiting for the right moment then. Meanwhile, a lot of our subs are at sea, so it should hopefully draw the destroyers west, and then maybe the weather will clear a little bit in April. The main question is going to be supply for headquarters. We've got a lot of tanks ready to go, though. Okay, so that does it for Germany there. Already looked at the invasion of Africa, North Africa. The only thing we really have left to look at is Argentina, where the Argentine forces have joined the Axis powers and are busy trying to overrun South America. So Argentina has already taken over Chile. They've already taken over Brazil. So if we zoom out here, we can see Brazil has been taken and is garrisoned by the Argentine army. Chile has been taken and is being garrisoned by the Argentine army. They have some troops left at their own capital. And then Peru is the next target on the list. And it looks like she will probably fall in a month or two when we're able to wear down this garrison at Peru. So that'll be another country that'll fall to the Axis powers. Assuming the Americans don't send strong reinforcements, which is always a possibility. If we go to the forces matrix here, we can see the British are down to 45 units. The Americans still have 64. The Germans have 83. The Japanese have 74. These are ground units. And then there are 16 Italian units. In terms of air units, the British have 9, the Americans have 18, the Germans only have 15, and the Japanese 12, so the Allies actually are comparable in air power. Naval power, the UK has 13 units left, the United States has 25. I would guess a large number of those are submarines, too. I think we've got like 6 or 7 subs in the Pacific, and then we've got probably an equal number of destroyers and then a carrier in the Atlantic. So you're probably looking at maybe 10 additional naval units that we haven't really identified where they are. Germany has 11, but those aren't the greatest quality, mostly submarines and motor torpedo boats. Japan has 19, but again, that still leaves the Allied naval strength substantially stronger than our own. If we go to national morale, British national morale is falling. They're down to 36%. They're regularly losing, although maybe not this turn, more value in income than they are receiving. The Americans are not. I mean, there are times where they lose a lot, but in general, the American economy continues to grow. So they're a nuisance. We already knocked Russia, Poland, China out of the war. Is this Canada? And Canada is losing a lot more than it gets because it doesn't get a lot of money. But with that being said, I think that about does it for our March 8th turn as well. So I guess why don't we... Do we want to move our destroyer along the northern coast of North Africa? See what's out there? Doesn't look like a whole lot. Can do some recon here. Yeah, so I guess with that being said, let's go ahead and move into April of 1946, and we'll see what happens as we continue to prepare. Oh, actually, no. I've got a lot of money left. Diplomacy, I don't think I've got any chits available. I don't. I've already got all my money invested in diplomacy. Research. Germany is a little bit to spare. They have... they can invest a little bit more. Production technology. guess anti-tank weapons for infantry could be useful. Okay. Italy is 350. Anti-tank weapons could be useful for Italy if it ever gets to spend that. Warfare 2. And then Japan already spent its money. Germany still has about 1,900 left over. Let's see if there's any air units we want to upgrade or whatever. I think we probably already did the bulk of what we can. Apparently these guys can get to 13. Wow. That's an overstrength. These bombers, if we ever actually get the weather to use them, are going to be ferocious. Even some of these fighters are pretty damn impressive. Alright. Alright, let's move these fighters to the coast. Bombers as well. And I think that's going to do it. This HQ, we probably should make sure our HQs are maxed out on air defense just because we know they're going to get bombed heavily. All right, we will move those guys onto transport just because they're in southern France, so they're probably a little bit more safe from the enemy. And away we go into April 1946. But before we go, we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up here. It's been about 30 minutes. That's usually how long I like my episodes to go. So we'll pick this up next time around as we move further into 1946, prepare for our invasion of England, and continue our assault on Australia. Until that time, however, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching once again, and until next time, I'm out.